I found my wife's affair with our accountant, who's now claiming half of our $2 million estate in a bizarre legal battle after she suddenly vanished with $150, $0 from our joint account. I never saw the betrayal coming. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never saw it coming. Honestly, I thought I knew everything about my wife. We'd been married for 10 years and I always believed we had a solid, stable life. We had a nice house, 2 kids, and a joint estate worth around $2 million. Life was good, or so I thought. But then, out of nowhere, everything changed in a way I could never have predicted. It started with small things. Became more secretive about her phone, always keeping it close, even when she went to the bathroom. She'd snap at me for no reason, accuse me of being paranoid when I asked about her odd behavior. Little things, really, but I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed or busy. I mean, I was busy too, running my own business, trying to make sure everything was perfect. Still, I noticed she was acting different. She started dressing up more, spending more time at her sister's house, and her attitude towards money changed. She was suddenly very cautious about our joint accounts, asking me why I was spending so much on business trips or gifts for the kids. She'd say, "You're always gone and I don't know what you're up to." But the moment that really tore it for me was when I found her phone records. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I just happened to glance at her screen while she was in the shower. There, buried deep in her messages, was a string of texts with David, our accountant. His name was David, and he'd been handling our finances for years. I'd trusted him implicitly. But the texts were explicit, flirty, suggestive, talking about meeting up after hours and even sneaky plans to spend some quality time together. I froze. My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was cheating on me with the guy I'd trusted with our money. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I couldn't believe she'd been lying all this time, pretending to be the loyal wife while she was sneaking around behind my back. I felt sick. How could she do this to me, to us? I didn't even know how to process it. I felt this surge of betrayal and anger that I'd never experienced before. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be careful. I needed proof, something concrete. So I started digging deeper, checking bank statements, looking for receipts, anything that could confirm the affair. And that's when I discovered the real shocker. I found out she'd been withdrawing money from our joint account, about $150, $0 over the past couple of months, just vanished. I couldn't believe my eyes, was stealing from us now. My mind spun. Did she think she could just run off with her lover and leave me holding the bag? I was furious, but I also felt numb. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this after all these years? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That's when I started to piece it all together. Had been planning this. The secret trips, the secret money withdrawals, the flirting with David. It all made sense now. She was leaving, or maybe she was already gone. I didn't know if she was planning to run away with David or just disappear for good. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had to figure out what to do next. I needed answers, and I needed to protect what was left of our life. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How could she lie to me for so long? How could she betray everything we built? The pain was sharp, but beneath it, a burning desire for justice was growing. I was going to find out the truth, no matter what it took. The more I dug into her accounts and her phone, the clearer it became that I'd been planning this for a while. The phone was full of messages, texts, emails, even deleted ones, that painted a picture of someone who was hell-bent on sneaking away. She'd been talking to David about a new life after she got her hands on the money, and the way she described her feelings. It was like she was ready to cut ties with everything we'd built. I couldn't believe how cold she had become, going from a loving wife to someone willing to betray her vows for a quick escape. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling this rage bubble up inside me. I was furious at her, but I was also hurt, deeply hurt. We'd been through so much together, and I never imagined she'd be capable of this kind of deception. I started questioning everything, our marriage, her loyalty, whether I ever truly knew her at all. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? Was I so caught up in my own world that I didn't see the cracks forming? Or was she just that good at hiding her true self? That night I confronted her. I waited until she came home, trying to keep my voice steady, but inside I was boiling. When she walked in, I just looked at her and said, "I know about David. I know what you've been doing. The texts, the money, you've been lying to me for months." Her face froze for a second, then she smirked, that bitchy look she always wore when she thought she was winning. "Oh, come on, Jim," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're always accusing me of stuff. You're paranoid. Maybe I just need some space." I didn't buy her bullshit. I told her I knew she'd been stealing money, that she'd been planning to leave me, and I wanted answers. Her reaction was classic deflect, deny, lie. She said she was just stressed, that I was overreacting, and that David was just a friend helping her organize her thoughts. She spun some story about needing to get away for a while to clear her head, but I wasn't buying it. I knew she was lying. She'd been caught red-handed and she was just trying to save her ass. The thing is, when I saw her lie, I felt a mixture of shock and disgust. She looked me straight in the eye and lied about everything, about the affair, about the money, about her plans. It was like she was a different person, someone I didn't even recognize. I felt betrayed in a way I never had before. I'd always thought we were solid, that we had trust. Turns out she was just pretending. That realization hit me hard. I was angry, yes, but mostly I was heartbroken. How could she do this? How could she betray me, our family, all for some guy and a pile of cash? After that night, everything changed. I knew I couldn't go on pretending I didn't know the truth. I started plotting my next move, trying to figure out how to get her to face the consequences. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. I wanted her to see what it felt like to be betrayed, to be played for a fool. I knew I had to act fast if I was going to stop her from disappearing with everything. The stakes were high, and I had no intention of letting her walk away with our money, our life, our marriage. Not without a fight. In the days that followed, I threw myself into gathering evidence. I wasn't just going to confront her blindly. I needed proof she couldn't deny. I started by tracking every bank transaction, every withdrawal, every transfer she made. It was astonishing. She had drained about $150, $0 from our joint account over just 2 months. Some of it she spent on luxury trips, expensive clothes, even a few nights at fancy hotels. But most of it was just disappearing, like she was trying to cover her tracks. I also hired a private investigator, something I never thought I'd have to do, but I was desperate. I wanted to know if she was hiding somewhere, if she had a plan to run away with David or someone else. The pie confirmed what I suspected, was at a hotel a few towns over, meeting with David. They'd been planning this, I was sure of it. My stomach clenched when I saw the photos. In a tight dress, leaning into David, whispering, her hand on his leg. They looked like they were already planning their escape. Meanwhile, I started to see how she was manipulating everyone around her. Tell her friends she was just stressed, that she needed a break, that she was taking care of herself. But I knew better. I knew she was lying to everyone, especially herself. She was orchestrating her departure with precision, and I was the last to know. It was like I'd been by a storm I never saw coming. I also found out she'd been telling her sister she was so unhappy that she felt trapped. Her sister, of course, was sympathetic, who wouldn't be, but I could see through the lies, was trying to set everyone against me, making me look like the bad guy. That's typical of her, she always spins things her way. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate anyone anymore. I had the evidence, and I knew I had to act fast before she disappeared completely. One night I decided to confront her again. I called her and told her I knew everything about the affair, the money, the plans. I told her I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Her reaction was a mix of anger and defiance. She yelled at me, called me paranoid, said I was just jealous. She even had the nerve to say she loved me, but she needed to do this for herself. Yeah, right. Like I was some fool who'd buy that load of crap. That call marked a turning point. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little bit. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for my marriage or cut my losses. But honestly, at that moment, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. She was gone, or at least she was trying to leave me behind. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew what I had to do next. I was going to take control of this mess, and she wasn't going to walk away with everything, especially not without consequences. After I gathered enough evidence, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to act decisively. The first thing I did was consult with my lawyer, someone I'd trusted for years. I explained everything, from this affair with David to the suspicious withdrawals and her secret trips. We discussed my options, and it became clear that I had grounds for a legal battle, especially since she was trying to take half of our estate, which, as I knew, was not going to be easy to split when she was already planning her escape. The next step was confronting her directly. I arranged to meet at a neutral place, a quiet downtown. I wanted to hear her lies in person, see her face when she tried to deny everything. When she arrived, she looked tense but composed, like she'd been rehearsing her story for a while. I just looked at her and said, "I know about the affair, the money, everything. You can't keep running from this. I want you to come clean or I'll take legal action." Her eyes flashed with that familiar bitchy smirk. She tried to deny everything at first, protesting that I was crazy, that I was paranoid, and that she loved me. She called David just a friend, said she'd only been talking to him about our finances. I cut her off. I told her I had proof and I wasn't going to be fooled anymore. I told her she had two choices: tell the truth and work out a fair settlement, or face a court battle where I'd fight for full custody of the kids, the house, and the money she was trying to steal. It was then she lost her cool. She started yelling, calling me controlling, insecure, and accusing me of ruining her life. But I wasn't backing down. I told her that her lies and betrayal had destroyed whatever trust we had, and I wasn't going to let her walk away with half our estate just because she decided to cheat and steal. I made it clear I was prepared to go to court, fight for everything, and expose her affair publicly if I had to. That confrontation marked a turning point for me. I realized I was no longer just a betrayed husband. I was a man fighting to protect what was mine. I also learned that manipulations ran deeper than I thought. She was used to getting her way, lying her way out of trouble, but I was done with her lies. I decided I would do whatever it took to get justice, even if it meant dragging her reputation through the mud. She may have thought she was smart, but I had enough proof to bring her down if she kept pushing me. As I left that meeting, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and determination. The battle was just beginning, but I knew I had to stay strong. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about standing up for myself and making sure she couldn't walk away unscathed after betraying everything we built. I wasn't going to let her manipulate the system or turn my life into chaos. The stakes were too high, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. Over the next few weeks, everything escalated quickly. My lawyer filed the necessary paperwork to freeze our joint accounts and start the legal process to protect my assets. Meanwhile, was nowhere to be found. She had vanished, just like I suspected she would, probably hiding somewhere with David or maybe even planning to leave the state entirely. I was left to handle the fallout, trying to keep my head above water while everything around me was crumbling. I also hired a private investigator to track her down, and sure enough, he found her at a small beach house about 3 hours away. She was holed up there with David, apparently trying to get her story straight and figure out her next move. Seeing her in those photos, her relaxed, smug face, knowing I was closing in, made my blood boil. How could she have been so reckless, so selfish? She had destroyed our marriage, stolen from our family, and now she was just trying to run away from it all. I remember sitting in my office, staring at the court papers, feeling a mixture of anger and helplessness. I wanted to go there myself, confront her face to face, tear her apart, but I knew that wouldn't do any good. I had to play it smart. The legal route was the only way to get her to face the consequences. I also knew I had to prepare for the worst: a long, nasty fight over the estate, the house, and the kids. Was used to manipulating people, and I wasn't about to let her do that with the court. One night, I got a call from my lawyer. We were preparing for a hearing to freeze her assets and get a court order to find out exactly what she was planning. During that call, I also learned she'd been trying to sell some of our property, trying to liquidate assets before the court could step in. That was the last straw. I realized she was willing to do anything to cover her tracks, even if it meant destroying what was left of our life. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but feel betrayed, again, and the pain was deep. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs. How did I not see that she was capable of this? I had trusted her completely, and she'd been lying right in front of me all along. The worst part was knowing I had to keep my emotions in check, stay focused, and fight for what was legally mine. I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting to protect my reputation, my family, and the little stability I had left. As I sat there contemplating everything, I realized I had to be prepared for her next move. She was a master manipulator, and I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. I had to stay one step ahead. I couldn't let her take everything without a battle. The legal process was slow but necessary. I was committed to seeing this through, even if it meant exposing her lies and her affair publicly. The betrayal cut deep, but I refused to let her win. I was done being the victim. It was time to take control and fight for my future. The court date finally arrived, and I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. Was nowhere in sight, probably still hiding out at that beach house or maybe even planning her next move. But I had everything I needed. The evidence was solid: the bank statements, the texts, the photos from the pie, and the testimonies from friends and who had noticed her strange behavior. I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice, about making sure she couldn't walk away from her betrayal unpunished. The hearing was intense. The lawyer tried to spin her story, claiming she was a victim of my controlling behavior, that she needed a fresh start, and that her affair with David was just a mistake. But I stood my ground. I presented everything: the proof of her affair, the secret withdrawals, her attempts to liquidate assets, and I made it clear I wasn't backing down. I wanted full custody of the kids, the house, and a fair division of the estate. The judge listened carefully, and after hours of back and forth, the ruling was in my favor. The court ordered her to return the stolen money and set strict limits on her access to our accounts. It also granted me primary custody of our children, considering her unstable behavior. When she was served with the court papers, her reaction was priceless. She looked stunned, then enraged. She yelled and cursed, calling me every name in the book, but I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of relief, like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a cheat, and someone who had tried to destroy everything I built. She was going to have to face the consequences of her actions. In the aftermath, I focused on rebuilding my life. I filed for divorce, and the process was messy. She fought me every step of the way, trying to manipulate the system, trying to turn the kids against me. But I stayed firm. I had the law on my side, and I knew I deserved better. I also took steps to protect my remaining assets and to ensure she couldn't do this again. I learned a lot from the whole ordeal, mostly that trust can be broken so easily, and that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail to protect what's yours. Looking back, I realize this experience changed me. I used to believe in happily ever after, but now I know that sometimes love isn't enough. People can surprise you in the worst ways. But I also learned that even when betrayal cuts deep, you have to stand up, face the truth, and do what's right. I lost a lot in this process: money, trust, the marriage, but I gained clarity and strength. And most importantly, I gained my dignity back. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. No one should accept betrayal quietly. Sometimes, the only way to move forward is to fight for what's right, even if it hurts. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, and I can finally say I did what I had to do.